So this could be part of this wave coming in. And I'm just using a lot of different directions with the brush, playing with it. It's like an instrument, it's like spills, and it's already running out of paint. So you can see a bigger brush would have been better. I have this lovely muted tone. If it's in the wave, it really makes the intense colors pop because this is muted. And I want to strategically place these where it'll unify the painting, because ultimately the neutrals are really what support all the work. You know, we like all these really bright paintings and they're abstractively creative, but I think if I'm doing a landscape, nature has many more muted tones than pure color. Where I use pure color for nature is to accent a little highlight. So I may use a pure color as a little gesture accent somewhere. So I like that purple. I'm just carrying it through. I want to fill the space because I don't want it to dry in the break. And already I'm feeling and making the wave move towards me, right? I'm actually visualizing it. And it helps to have an image of this even on video. I have a little, my iPhone, and now you can make your own videos on that. I don't have to have Peter there. but I can make a quick video of the ocean and repeat and play it over to even hear the sound. And I have that also as part of my process, right? It's, and now right away I'm putting opaque paint down there. Just to remind myself I actually like this shape. I mean, it's not good painting technique. You're actually supposed to put mostly thin layers to begin with, let them dry, and work on the shape. Study those shapes that you have. Is that the colors you want there? And then build them up.
Are you using always water or medium?
I think here some of them already have the medium in it. It helps to have a bit of medium, but at this stage it can be totally water. It can be splatters, and these will probably cover. But if I use the light white of the canvas as you know, the end product, then that's fine. Often it's nice to actually put a little bit of paint on those areas. I've noticed it sort of stands out kind of too much as a raw you know, space. So now my brush has a transparent color on it and an opaque color. Big no-no, you know, because you can't predict what it's going to do. But that's what I like about painting. I like the painting to dictate to me something that's its own. And then I guess it's like a personality of a child or something. It's like, oh, you know what? I think that's interesting. I'll go with that. I may not like it. But I can maybe work with it. And I'm squinting all the time because in the end I can see the overall thing when I squint. I'll run out of paint. And this is good that I'm getting this first layer down because I'd like to let it dry a bit. That I can cut into it like I did that other little abstract that I started with. So, you know, I don't think I should put a real dark in here somewhere. I'll just build it here. So this could just be sort of a rock. So I've noticed rocks, you can actually have really strong water come over it, and it has these really funny shapes on pictures. Like waterfalls, they have tons of these little dark areas between the water falling, which this would be similar to. So if ocean comes over a rock, it'll be the same as a waterfall. I really actually appreciated what I learned from Don Farrell. He talked about a lot of abstract aspects of painting. Even though he did some very realistic work, he became more of an abstract painter later. And what he started to do is very, very soft, muted colors, and he put these little arrows like that across his canvas to guide you and stop you. So he just used actual arrows like this, and they became part of his composition. And it was quite intriguing to see how they actually are effective, such little marks to guide your eye. So I do try to look at what all of these things, even though they're crazy, they look like they've just been thrown there and, you know, haphazardly. I am considering each and every one of them and hoping that they play on each other. And support each other. And also have an interesting expression of complements. So if I have blue, does anybody know what the complement of blue is?
Orange.
Yeah, thanks. So I'll make an orange. Mix it in there. And now this would be harder to just throw in. So I actually don't know where to put it yet, but I know I want it somewhere because it feels a little bit too blue. And this is where really light, it's almost too bright. It's gonna, wow, that's what I like about gold. It's really strong pigmentation. I can really see that little bit on my brush made this white already just warm. And that's incredible, because usually you have to like put a lot of paint in it. Okay, so this is an interesting color. I'll try it out here, yeah. So I shifted it right here first because that's its neighbor, very close to this. Should work here, right? There's no contrast. Up here, it's going to be much louder against the blue. So what I could do, I have a small brush, so I'm going to have to carry it quickly through. A lot of water, why not? It's just going to soften into that. And so it could be like a sunlit way. This is where sometimes a rag, now this is picking it up because it's actually clean, because it's supposed to pick up stuff. It's a towel or cloth would be better. But see how I can just gently put that warm over that. And so rag painting is okay. Finger painting could be fine too, but it'll be hard to get out of your nails. Now these dots, they're quite strong paint. I have to be careful where they are. So I can always cover them later. I'm just adding a few extra accents just to see how it travels through. A little stop there. So what I mean by stop, that was another term I learned, in that your eye stops in just strategic little places and carries on through. Oh, that's interesting what that water droplet did. I might leave it. It's nowhere else, so I may want to copy that. I like that shape, so yeah, let's put another one down here. Repeated patterns. Okay, so that's another thing. Think about if this was like music. You'd have notes and you'd have harmony in it, but you'd also have some discords, and you'd also have the main melody. And within that is the key, and what that could be these little repeated notes, this shape that happened to form itself. I'm now playing along and rendering without doing a circle, okay? So all of a sudden this becomes more abstract, geometric abstraction. I can put squares in here and really make it geometric and build this into an abstract. But I liked how it was feeling quite like a real wave, so I don't want to put that circle there. And I do try to wipe as much off, just because painting over will have texture, and texture actually stands out quite a bit against the fabric of your work. So texture can be fun, and you can texture acrylics ahead of time with pastes and things, and it's beautiful. But what part of the painting is it trying to bring out? Oh, I could texture the rocks. Well, that's sort of obvious. Why don't I texture the waves. Like, you know, think about where you're going to texture it, and does it play as part of the composition? And it's intuitive. You know, I'm not going to say what's right or wrong, but I've sort of seen this overtake of texture somewhere, and then the rest of it sort of loses the weight of that, or it's been very effective, and there's this separation between this textured part and the other. So just depends. You may not want to put it everywhere, but if it is, then where are some of that texture, some of the marks in the texture, some of the 3D shadows guiding you? That's what I look at when I build a painting, whether it's white on white with texture. I still am thinking about the same things I just thought about applying with the brush. Now, I may not use a brush to add, you know, medium underneath, texturing mediums. I would probably use something like this and texture a whole bunch of the kind of texturing pastes and things that are out there with instruments like that, or a piece of cardboard or a credit card or whatever people use. But you can also apply paint with this. You can also lift paint with this. This is too dry, but I can scrape off things very quickly and add a little bit of texture. Again, not overdone. Like, I don't want to keep, you know, this whole thing is, unless that's my intent and it's something I'm going to unify the painting with. So again, there's no right or wrong, but what are you doing with it? And I'll just show you, like, adding application of paint with this thing. I usually do this at the end because ideally thin to thick, and I still would like to add layers, but just to show you, let's see what happens if I take this and, well, let's cover that because I didn't like that. So I like this little white was in there, it showed up there. Again, I didn't know what it would do, but I figured it would do something interesting besides putting just ochre down there. And this is a glaze, it has a lot of medium in it, so it should come out fairly transparent. So it should work in here fairly well. And you can sort of go across the whole thing. There's some interesting texture that we ended up doing. So lots of stuff can happen with these types of tools. This one is a really good one for detail work. Scribbles. I think this is too dry. And I still have 15 minutes. So you can paint with this too. But it's meant more for lifting. So let's put some more blue in here. This should be at least 3 layers of value, and it can have transparent layers, then opaque layers, and maybe, I love this color. Let's put that somewhere. This is a little more purposeful. What I'm doing is squinting and doing actual strong shapes with this. And here's another example of cutting in and carrying that brush through. Why? It unifies. You know,
What color is that?
it's a teal, cobalt teal.
No, it's green.
Yeah, so it has a very expensive. It is cobalt. So it's not a hue. So I use it sparingly. But I liked how it transferred. See, I dipped it. I took some of it pure and some of it through this purple. So my brush managed to blend it near the end. And I like that, those little gestures. I do a lot of those in my abstract work. So what they are is the actual shape of the brush. I like that. I like to say a brush did this, not a phone app. And I'll tell you, I've been playing with these tablets and stuff, and they're fun. But the computer program probably plays out more of the piece than your own handwork. So that's the difference. It's great to practice. You can change colors very quickly. You know, scroll on these little apps and things. Very fun to do. But you're not practicing pressure. I know there's these pressure-sensitive apps out there, and the computer's deciding the pressure. So it's an interesting new medium. Certainly can be perfected in how you work with it, and it can become quite an enjoyable way to paint something. And an interesting method. So this is 2 layers of paint here. That's all I'm trying to establish. A little more texture there with the brush. This is smooth, so I like this. I'm gonna be careful not to come here, even though I like what was going on here. The temptation is okay, yes, I want to unify and bring all this texture over here, but I'm liking this, so I'm like pulling back. Don't go there, don't go there, don't touch that. Go somewhere else and get some strong contrast elsewhere. That's already playing out nice in its own little entity. So as I'm painting, I'm actually dividing the canvas and looking at if each section itself has a pleasing composition. It's intuitive, okay? Like if you have to spend the time and go, okay, it's off center and the top third and I have a weight of the, like you can, but you're losing the momentum. So just judge it intuitively. And if something speaks too loudly, like as if it might be out of place, then go there and either cover it or spend some time with it on what is called a secondary easel, and you put it aside where you can walk by it and work on something else. And you'll see right away what it needs. So that's what that secondary easel concept is. Now apparently with oceans, because they're all so blue and cool, a little tip is always add a bit of red. Oh, okay, that's what they say. I'll do that. And that's a bit, so that's all I'll do. Because I don't want it to overpower, unless I wanted to make a red ocean and it's like a striking image of some emotional aspect to it. Any questions so far? No? It'll be a great time to break because I'm not going to do much more to this. I'll have to study it a little bit. I like this positive line here. And I like this negative shape, right? So there's this positive, negative aspect. Positive means on top. I put paint on top is a positive shape. This is a negative shape, this white, because it's painted around. So it pops up. This sits on its own. Positive sits on top, and negative is painted around and actually comes forward. So even though it's called negative, it actually pops forward quite often because it's often transparent. Something to think about. So I could make these positive shapes more positive, deeper. That's the tough call. How much attention do I want there? Eyes go to what's really dark against light. Where's my no tan? You know, I have this dark here. So I could follow that. I'm reducing. I'm not putting the trees in, but I'm liking some of this gesture, right? This here, that negative space. So when it dries, I might trickle in some water here.
Do you want some water?
Yeah, please. Thanks. That might help me.
Water.
Well, yeah, that's a good point. A cup of water would be great. That may help me paint the water coming over the rocks. So I like this negative shape. I'm going to accent it by adding a positive shape beside it. So right away, I put a positive white close to a negative, and that allows me to unify them in some way. And it's scary to do these quick gestures and not go over them again. I don't always like what happens, but if I go over it, it's going to actually lose its effect. So this is where another aspect of painting is you often either leave 10% unfinished than 1% overfinished. In other words, don't go back and fiddle with things just for the sake of fiddling. Are they acceptable enough? You know, can we live with it? And that's the secondary easel will tell you that, so I wouldn't get rid of things right away. I'm just putting more warms in here as I feel them coming across the, so there's an, yeah, I like those brush strokes, so I'm going to carry those through. And if I carry them all evenly, that repetition here would stand out. So if I did this brush stroke across all of this wave, that would be the focal point, because it's a repetition that you can't miss. Hello, welcome, come on in. I like this shape, so I'm not going to touch that, but I might just put two little things here to echo that shape and vary it. So echoes mean similar shapes or color, or even this form and this form. They echo each other. So I like that. I like to look for echoes. And here, let's just have some fun with a bit of splatter with this color. I don't know how it could ruin it. So water on top of thick paint can be, yeah, it's not quite good, but I don't want too much. It's gonna be weird. So, but I do like splatters. And that just brings a little bit of attention, a little bit of detail to some of that area. Yeah, a little underpainting, like I did in the last painting with a little bit of pink, just to sort of add a difference to the water and lay that in as a background color. So I'll just put that in here. It's quite strong.